Hello, my name is Christian. I'm a magician from Denmark and I like to build stuff. I build all kinds of props and different things the last few years. And one of the things that I really like to build and one of the things that I think people should care more about is the suitcase that we carry our props around in. I know you can buy really expensive prop cases and a lot of them are absolutely great. By all means do that. But I think it's more fun to have a prop case and a working case that has some kind of personality, that says something about you. And I'm also on a mission to get magicians who get one of those aluminum cases from the hardware store and just put a laminated sign on the front and think that's okay. And if you do that, I'm sorry, I think you're wrong. I don't want to hurt you or anything, but I don't think it says anything interesting about the performing magician. And you can say, well, I am the show, not my case. I'm not sure that's entirely true. I think everything in your show should tell a story. And I have built a number of cases. I have retrofitted some old suitcases I found at thrift shops and stuff like that. But recently I've started making teleportation devices for people who want to do Pop Hayden's teleportation device routine, and it's a wonderful routine. And I found out that my current setup really doesn't leaves me enough enough space in my current suitcase to do that routine with what could you call it, with ease or with confidence. I need something that works better. I need a specialized suitcase for this particular routine. And I want to show you how I built one. And you can take this video and as a kind of instructional video on how to make your own case. And you don't have to make my design. You can take some of my ideas, and none of the ideas I'm going to use in this particular project is in any way original to me. But I want to show you that you can make your own suitcase with quite few skills. I'm not a particularly skilled woodworker in any capacity. But if you have a handsaw and a screwdriver and a pencil, and you can make a straight line on a piece of plywood, you can actually go pretty far in respect of making your own suitcase. And I think you can make something that is more you than that aluminum case from the hardware store. So in this project, I'm going to make a case out of this piece of plywood. I just bought one that had these dimensions. I think I can make the entire case out of this particular piece of plywood. If I need more, I can go to the hardware store and get it. It's not very expensive. If you don't want to do your own cutting, most reasonably well-equipped hardware stores can actually make the cuts in the plywood for you, and you can just say, I want these and these and these pieces with these measurements, and then you can just go home and glue the stuff together, and then you have a suitcase, basically. But it's not enough just to make a plywood box. You need to make something that looks good. And in my work with the teleportation devices, and I have one right here I can show you. This one is, I brought this, I've made a lot of different designs. This one is the one that is tallest, so I'm going to fit the box I'm going to make, the suitcase, so it can fit this one comfortably. But most of the devices I've made are smaller, And the one that I use in my show is considerably smaller than this one. It's maybe this big. But I want to make sure that this one could fit into it if I ever wanted to bring one this size. Another thing that it needs to hold is this bowl, because that's important in the routine. And it needs to be able to hold a box of eggs. This is a bit long. I usually have a box about this size with eight eggs in it, so I'm going to make sure that this can fit into it. Another thing is this little thing. I'm not going to tip anything about the routine. If you want that, you can buy it from Pop Hayden, and it's a wonderful routine. It is very good at explaining it, but this needs to go along. This needs a place, and a few other things needs their particular place in the box. But I want the box to be able to open up towards the audience so they can see into the box. It needs to be a pretty box on the outside and on the inside. In my usual performing box, the audience is never going to see inside, so I don't really care how it looks. But this one needs to be like a display for the items that makes this routine, and I think that's very important. Back to the box. When I made these teleportation devices, I found out that I can cover the cigar boxes. These are basically made out of cigar boxes, but I can cover them in this leather look paper. I haven't found something that actually looks like leather, but I have this crocodile skin. It's really nice. It's pretty durable actually. And I've made some with a snake skin look, and this kind of paper is not really easy to get in Denmark, but fate has it that practically the only shop I've found that carries this kind of paper is just 20 minutes from where I live, which is quite impressive. But I went the other day and got some different paper for not just this project. I'm going to show you what I got, but you can find this online at hobby stores, and it's like a very heavy stock paper. But I have this orange snake skin look, and I'm not going to use this. I have this really nice green snakeskin look. That's what I'm going to use for this box actually. So I'm just gonna put it off to a side here. I just wanted to show you, I got this really nice orange crocodile look paper, and I got this purple crocodile look paper. Those other papers here are going into the production of other boxes and teleportation devices and stuff like that. So, but I wanted to make a box with the green snakeskin look because I think that would be really awesome. So that's that is what drives me. I like stuff that looks awesome. So I'm going to make this box. I'm going to do some measurements, and bottom line of this part of the this intro is that you can basically make it with a handsaw, quite rusty handsaw. It's still sharp. A pencil, a screwdriver, and a piece of sandpaper and stuff like that. I do have some power tools, and I'm going to use them. I'm not an idiot, but it's possible to make it, and it's not really annoyingly difficult. It's a little bit more time consuming, so that's why I'm going to use the power tools. But I'm going to do the cutting with the handsaw. I don't have a table saw or anything, and it's all right to do it by hand. But you can do most of the stuff here with basically these 3 tools. So now I'm going to do some measurements, and I'm going to talk a little bit about that in just a moment. All right. I just took the bowl, which is the largest item that needs to fit in the box, and put it onto the plate, or the piece of board here. And I have this little piece of, what is that, 1 centimeter times 1 centimeter. That's going to reinforce the corners of the box, and it needs to go on both sides of this, and there needs to be a little bit of wiggle room here, so that the bowl can easily get in and out. I don't want it to be like banging around inside the box, but I need it to not be too snug a fit, so it needs to get in and out pretty easily. And I just measured, it's 28 centimeters here, and if any Americans are there, you can look up what 28 centimeters are in inches. I don't really care. And I just measured it at a right angle from the and using the saw as like a, I don't know what that tool is called, a right angle, yes. So I'm going to make, well, maybe I just need to cut it once and then cut it here halfway and make the 2 end pieces of the box, and I have to see if I can fit it all onto the plywood. So I'm going to cut this, and or maybe I need to make a few more drawings. I don't really know. I like to kind of iterate as I go on, and I don't plan the entire project from the beginning, so to speak. I have a fairly firm idea of how this is going to be, but I'm not really doing a exact plan. I like to measure as I go along, and sometimes that doesn't work out and things go badly, but I think it's okay here. All right, I cut the first piece, and I just put it onto the board here, and I want it to be, I could make it almost square in, what is that called, circumference perhaps, but I might want it to be a more rectangular shape, so I think I might cut a piece more. I need 4 pieces to make the sides, and then the front and the back needs to be larger pieces that can be put on the sides. And I think if I cut this, if I have this, then I have the short sides, and then a little bit longer on the top and bottom, and then I think maybe there's enough plywood to make the sides, or the front and back. So I'm going to cut this piece and see how it goes, and then see if I need to go and get another piece of plywood. I'm not quite sure, and I know experienced woodworkers would say, just do your measurements, just calculate everything. That's not how I work, and you don't have to do that either. You can make nice stuff anyway. So, and I'm not saying do as I do, just saying it's possible. So let's get that out of the way. So I'm going to cut this and see how it goes. I have cut the 4 sides, the top and bottom and the sides, and just going to lay them out here, and this one over here will be over here. And as you can see, the plywood has frayed a little bit, so I'm going to sand that off and make the edges a little bit smoother. But all this doesn't really matter if you're going to wrap it in the nice snakeskin paper anyway afterwards, because you can hide all the crimes you make in this particular part of the process. But as I said earlier, if you want to get the cuts really clean, you can make your hardware store make the cuts for you. So, but I'm going to sand the things off, and then I'm going to cut the last pieces, the front and back. But I think I might glue the sides together first, so I can measure out precisely how big the front and back needs to be. Okay, the 4 sides are sanded down now, and in order to make the edges more sturdy, I'm going to cut this to the length of the sides here and glue it on and nail it from the outside, and the nails will be covered by the paper, so that doesn't matter. So I'm going to cut some pieces of this to make these. I need 4 pieces the same length, so that's next. I'm gluing these onto the sides, and not the top and bottom. And I'm just going to put a few clamps on here. I'm not going to. If you don't have clamps, you don't need to go out and buy some. I just need to make it fit for a short while I drive a few of these small nails into the just need 3 nails per side. Making sure that it's still flush. So that's one side. Just going to make the next one in exactly the same manner. And if you want to make a box where you can see more of the wood and you want to make it nicer, you need to be more careful with your cuts. I'm going to, as I said earlier, hide a lot of my crimes using the snakeskin paper, so I don't really care too much about these particular things right now, because it's it can be corrected later on, so there's no need to. And of course, if you're a wood worker and you take great pride in your craftsmanship, then you of course wouldn't do this kind of sloppy way that I do it. But if you're a woodworker and you have pride in your craft, I don't think you would be watching this video anyway. Well, I was just thinking a little bit, and I think I'm going to make this cut now. This is going to be the front of the box opening up, and it will be easier to make this cut now. This could be done with a handsaw, but I'm going to use my scroll saw. You could do it with a what's that called? You know, hand. Yeah, I've no idea what that is called in English. Do have it readily available? No, I don't think so. But I'm going to make this, and it will act as kind of a table, a shelf that will open out and stop at a 90-degree angle towards the way the box is situated, and I think that will work well. So I'll just cut this now, and forgive me, I'm going to use my power tool for that. But as I said, it's possible to do it with a handsaw. It's just a little bit annoying. So I just made the cut, and now I have the possibility of making this, or even something that goes all the way down like this, and I can place something down here. So and the reason I've done this back to back is because then it's mirrored, so when I turn it the other way around, it will still fit. So I'm going to attach the bottom of the box onto these two now. Then I'm going to cut the top into two, so that I can glue one over here and one on this one, and then go on from there. one side of the box. I'm going to the other side here. Okay, I just cut the top piece into two, and I'm going to fit this on now here and make the top piece of the box. I need to find some nails. Found some new nails, even smaller, but they will do nicely here. So, just need a couple to hold this end together. Embarrassing, but so I'm going to clamp these two together here. I said in the beginning that you only needed a screwdriver and a handsaw, and now I'm using a hammer and some nails, but I think that's accomplishable too, to get from pretty much anywhere, so don't hold that against me. And again, this doesn't need to be nice because it's going to be covered in paper in just a short while, so it doesn't really matter. This is the biggest part of the box. I'm going to trace this end, the front, or actually the back, onto the big piece of plywood and cut that so I can glue that in before I call it a day. So that's next. This piece needs to get put on this one, and I'm going to make a piece of the plywood on the ends here, but I'm going to show that later. So well, this is the back of the box, and as you can see, there's plenty plywood left, so I can make the entire box out of this one sheet of plywood. I'm just going to cut this and put it onto the box. just made this framework all the way around so that I can put on the back, and just put on some glue here all the way around. And smooth it out a little bit so that it back will adhere to as much of this wood as possible. So there you go. Just gonna nail it in the corners here so it stays put, and then put a few nails around. If the edges are not entirely flush, you can sand it off later. Need to do some sanding anyway. So that's the back, and I'm just gonna reinforce it with a few nails around the edge here. Okay, so this is the base of the box. It's going to be a straight side here that will hold the lid that will tip outwards, and I hope that there's room enough for this one in here, this one, pack of eggs. Well, that's pretty nice. I think I'll like this. So I'm just gonna, well, I think I'm gonna call this a night. I just might sand the edges a little bit, and then that will be it. Okay, so this project so far has taken about 2 days, and I'm not quite finished yet. Well, not two full days, but I've worked on it for 2 days. Yesterday I put in these pieces of wood. This piece will be the mounting point for this stand that it will be attached to when I go out and perform. And unfortunately the stand is a little bit too big to be inside the case, so I'm going to to mount it with some of the leather straps that I showed you earlier in this video on the back here, so I don't have to carry this in any special or carry this in the other hand. I need to have everything compact and put on in there. And I chose this stand. I have one that is smaller and actually would be able to fit inside the case, but because this case will be initially mounted a little bit off center because of the way it opens and the way the weight will be distributed, I decided to go with this stand because it has a wider what could you call that, footing. The legs extend further out than the other stand I use for my other boxes. I have two of those stands and they're lightweight and really great, but this is musician's score holder stand. I don't know what that's called, that I butchered and just cut off the top. And I'm going to drill a hole right here where this will fit in, and it will be a pressure fit, so it will fit snugly, but it will be able to hold it. And the reason I use this particular wood here is because it's an old wine rack that I took apart, and I've used that for quite a number of cases now, and it's not hardwood, but it's harder than pine or fir, and it keeps the grip on in the pressure fit rather nicely. These things here are just because I'm going to mount a piece of ply or MDF as a bottom of the box on top of that, and they are just the mounting points, so there will be a little bit of a cavity down here, but nobody will see this. That's why this one is not very nicely cut out or anything. But next point, the next thing I'm going to do is unmount all these fittings here and start putting on the snake skin paper. That's gonna be great. Okay, I'm ready to start putting on the snakeskin paper, and I put a sheet down here, and I'm just going to show what I'm going to do. Yes, I am going to try to use as much, get as much out of the paper as possible. So I'm going to place it on the far side here, so it has a little lip down here, and then this will wrap all the way up here and has a little lip, a little overlap up here, so it attaches to the end here. So how do you attach this paper? There are several ways. Some would use spray glue, some would use some kind of contact cement. I just use regular wood glue because it works all right. The trick is to not drench the wood and the paper in the wood glue. Just a thin layer because if the paper gets too wet, it will expand a little, and then you can get wrinkles. So if you have a very smooth thin layer, it's easy to smooth out. It's easy to avoid bubbles, and well, not easy, but it's possible to avoid bubbles. and you can work kind of incremental. So I'm just going to start with putting glue on the bottom side, put it onto the paper, smooth it out, put it down again, then put glue on this side, put it down, smooth it out, and then do the little lips here, because they tend to fold up, so you have to be over them until the glue starts to, well, not dry out entirely, but you need to kind of condition the paper to be folded like that. And then when I've done that, I'm going to cut the sides down here and make folds on the sides, and then I'm going to cover the sides with separate pieces of paper. So that's what I'm gonna do now. So I'm just going to apply glue on this side here, and as mentioned earlier, it needs to be in a fairly well distributed. So I'm going to use a paintbrush to make this, and the wood actually is kind of thirsty. It sucks up some of the glue, so I might need to apply a little bit more, but need to get this is a shitty brush. It leaves strands of bristles. Fortunately, that's not really important. So the important thing is that this brush is going out. I'm trying this instead. And if you can see any place where there's no glue, then you need to apply a little bit more, so you can get this really nice, thin, even coat of glue. Especially the edges can be a little bit difficult to get. Like that, and I'm going to place this onto the paper now. I don't know if you can see that from here. Yes, probably. Now just work from the center and outwards, so I get air bubbles smooth out, and then all the way out to the edges here. All that was one side. Now I'm going to cover this side with glue and then put it down and start wrapping it around. And it's going to be the same procedure. I might turn it around and kind of make a crease down at the bottom, so I have I don't have too much dripping of the glue, so that the backside here will be upwards. Yes, so now these sides are covered. I'm just going to cut a snip there, fold this up and glue that onto and like that, wrap the box. And then I'm going to cut a smaller piece here that will fold around here, and the same up here, fold around, and then do the sides last. All right, this is progressing very nicely. I have these kind of contours down here inside the box, and just using these bulldog clips to keep the paper in place while it glues. And some of this will be overlapped by the red felt when I put that in. I still need to do the sides, and need to see if maybe I can actually get two sides out of that. I need to check that out. Well, still on with the gluing. Okay, now the lid is also wrapped in snakeskin paper, and the box here. And the next part here is going to put in the bottom here, and I'm going to cut it from this piece of MDF board, and I'm just going to cut it and fit it, but I'm not going to glue it in just yet, because I'm going to wrap the MDF in the red felt before I do anything else. And I'm also going to do the dividers inside the box, so that they are ready for being wrapped in the felt, so it looks really nice. This is kind of a fiddly work, so that will take some time, I think. So I cut this piece of MDF. It's like fiberboard or masonite. It's tempered on both sides. It's very easy to work with. And this I've used, as you can see, as a surface for cutting stuff. And that doesn't really matter, because it's going to be, as I said, covered in felt. But these little notches here makes it possible to fit into the bottom here. And the fit doesn't need to be very precise, because, as I said, it's going to be wrapped in felt, and that will add a little bit of thickness around the edges. So that's, I think I'll wrap that in felt now, and then I think I'll call it a day, and let the snake skin stuff dry up during the night. Felt here, I hope I bought enough, but I think it's okay. And I'm just going to cut out a piece that gives me enough to fold it over here and glue it around the edges, and that will form the bottom of the box. Okay, day 3 on my box building project. The bottom that I put on this felt has glued overnight, and I'm just going to see how it fits into the box now. And don't worry about the back side here, it doesn't need to be neat here. The important thing is that it's fairly okay on this side. Snug fit, but it's very nice. I think I'm going to repeat this way instead of trying to glue the felt on the inside. My experience with this is that it's pretty hard to do nicely. So instead I'm going to cut out pieces of MDF, put on the felt like this, and then glue the MDF onto the wood. Just clamp it on here on the side, and then I will have these panels with this stuff. So that's the next project. Well, not project, but the next part of the project. Only one thing though, these reinforcements in here, they will be visible because I'm going to make the MDF fit nicely within this. So for these not to stick out when you look into the box, I'm going to paint them black. They'll just be like trimmings inside the box with these black things, and I'm only going to paint the ones that people are going to see, so that it will be these here, they will be black, and I'm not going to be very neat about it. I'm just going to put some black paint on, and if I spill out onto this piece of wood, it will be covered by the felt later on, so it doesn't really matter. So that's what I'm going to do now. Okay, yesterday I put in the bottom here and glued it in, and it has a really nice finish. I'm going to put felt on this side, on this side, on this side, but not on this side, because this side will never be seen by the audience. And over here I have finished this side. I'm going to glue that in a minute, and then I'm going to cut out this, and this will be flush with everything. You can see actually on this one I made here that I made it a little bit too big. I don't think it'll be a problem because the box fits quite nicely, and I think it'll just, the other part of the box will go over this. But on the inside here I'm going to make sure that it fits a little bit better. But I don't think this looks quite nice. There's a little bit of wood showing through the paper here where the wrap wasn't exact, and the same with the felt here, and I'm going to hide that with just a little blot of green paint or red paint. I think that's okay. So over here I have the side that needs to go on over here, and it is glued overnight. and I just put glue on the inside of this and then clamp it on here, and that's quite nice. I'm going to do that now, and then I'm going to fit the back part here. I think it looks quite awesome. Alright, I'm going to show now how I put on these metal corners, because this snakeskin paper is quite durable, but especially on the corners it's a little bit fragile. So I'm going to put these on, and I would have liked some really nice brass corners, but I couldn't find any that had three sides. I have some like this, but they only protect two sides at once. Actually one side. So I'm going with these, and the rest of the fittings is also kind of shiny. But I'm just gonna show what I do. I put on the corner and I pre-drill just a little bit here. If you just screw them in, you risk getting a little bit of warp, and that's not very nice. As you can see, the inside of maybe it's difficult to see, but the holes in the corners are kind of punched in, so they have a little bit of indentation there. So in order to avoid that, I'm using one of these. I don't know what it's called in English. It's something that makes a cone-shaped recess into that will allow for those indentations to sink into. Maybe it's called a sinker. I don't know. But nevertheless, now the corner fits better. I'm just gonna screw it in here, and I loosely screw in all three screws, and then I tighten them a little bit at the time, so I get as little warping of the screws and the metal as possible. And these will be on all four or all 8 corners of the box. So that's that. Well, I think that this is pretty much the finished case. I bought these brackets on eBay from China for like $2. Just put them on for a little bit of decoration. I want to weather this case. I'm going to put some travel stickers on it to make it look like it has been around the world a few times. I'm not going to mess it too much up, but I like that it has some, like, a story to tell. And I'm considering making or getting kind of a sign, maybe enamel sign, not animal but enamel, like a metal sign that says something like TP device or something, teleportation or something, I don't know yet, to be right here, because this will be front of the towards the audience, and I don't want it to be a little bit downplayed. I don't want it to be too flashy. So I'm pretty content with this now.